So some of the things you can think about, we can all, you can just interject them into my presentation. Okay. Well, Yolanda told you who I am. So the agenda today is we're going to examine your company before bidding the right project, and the pros and cons of bidding. How many people have actually prepared a bid to bid? Oh, y'all go ahead on. So, and how many people have bidded? You bidded to a prime contractor or bidded to a government agency? Okay. So how many people have been successful in bidding? Okay. So you might be able to tell me something. And so one of the other things we're going to talk about, once you awarded the project, what do you do? And a breakdown of the deliverables and the performance assessment. That means what happens when you examine yourself after the bid process. Maybe you didn't get it, maybe you did get it. What could I have done differently to get it and all that stuff. This is what we're going to talk about today. Examine your company before bidding. That means be honest. Now, every job out there may not fit your company. You don't just bid to bid. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring up an example. When I was with GDOT, one of the things we did certification for small minority and women-owned businesses. And also we did contract compliance, and we handled problems that after a person had actually gotten a job, and this was basically dealing with the prime contractor. And this particular company they had the project on what they actually did, but they allowed the prime contractor to talk them into bidding another scope of work that they were not qualified to do. And what happened, by the time she called me, she was so far into it, and the guy did not pay her. She had gone to court with him and lost and all this stuff, but she wound up losing her business because she had spent so much time doing stuff that she didn't know how to do. And then the prime contractor would come back to her and require other stuff. And she was putting a lot of time into the work and wasn't getting paid for it, and he wound up not paying for her. And she actually wound up going out of business. So
this workshop was amazing. It provided a lot of great information for small business owners. All of the information is very vital to what we're trying to do in terms of building our capacity and making sure that we're able to get government contracts. Yolanda did a great job in setting this up, and the speaker was dynamic. Just provided the information that I need in order to secure a bid here in our local government as well as with our state or federal government entities.
So make sure when you bidding, you be honest with yourself. Bid projects that you know that you can perform. Don't bid just to be bidding. And consider teaming. This is another really one of the things that I always try to encourage small contractors to do. I used to work for APS also. Well, first I retired from Atlanta newspapers, so I've been working all my life. Then I went to APS 3 days after I retired, and I was doing contract compliance. And what I would try to encourage small companies to do is to either partner with each other, or team with each other, so they can compete with the larger companies. Once I left APS, I went over to the governor's office of small minority businesses. And what they would do, they would ask me when they come up with a bid, and this was on an IT project, to put together some minority and women-owned businesses to bid on an IT project. And this particular project had to do with coming up with a software where, when you go to the doctor or take your child to the doctor, you know how you have to fill out all those forms. You go to another doctor, you fill out the same form. So it actually would track you so you wouldn't have to do all that. So I put together 10 small IT companies and to bid on the project. And when I did it, so they didn't think I was going to be successful in doing it. When I did it, they pulled the project back. So because they knew they had somebody who they wanted to have that project. But I encourage you, when you are bidding and to team with other small businesses that do the same thing that you do, so you can compete with those larger companies, because larger companies, they can get materials cheaper. So they have more resources to operate with. So we used to have when I was with APS, we used to have a bid, what we call a bid preference. When a small company we would put something like this, maybe a 10% bid preference on that. So whatever the small business, when they bid, we would actually decrease their bid by 10%. So they could actually compete. It would be comparable to larger companies, because we knew the smaller companies have to pay more for material because they order in a small volume. So
very beneficial. We learned a lot. We have a lot to take with us to go over and process and look forward to the next workshop.
bidding the right project, if you know your skill set, know what you can do. If you know when you're looking at the project and looking at the scopes of work in that particular project, and you know you don't have the skill set or you don't have it in your company to do it, don't do it. Know and understand the project. Know what basically what the scopes of work is in that particular project. Examine the bid, look at it, and see what it entails, and also define the project scope. Basically the same thing in understanding the project. So you have different scopes of work in a project. I'm working on one now with the East Point. They have 15 different scopes of work in it. So if you can't do all of them, then you could. That comes back to teaming and partnering again, or either subcontracting some of the scope of work that you don't do. Now, the pros and cons of bidding. Knowing that you can execute the project. And what it does, once you bid and you get a project, it enhances your ability to continue, so you can continue bidding other projects. Now, who can give me some of the other pros? I only have 2 up here. Who can give me some of the other pros for bidding project? Now, I don't hear well, so you have to talk loud.
Oh, read through the bid completely.
Okay. Some of the other ones.
Understanding the terminology and the legalities, what you did now.
Right, I'm going to cover that because, some of these bids can get real complicated, and some of what they call boilerplate, right? And they just stick it in now, and so it goes into every bid, Yeah, knowing the terminology and understanding it. And basically, this gets up on the cons, is not understanding the bidding process and not being able to accept the pay terms. That is one of the most important things. Knowing what the pay terms are, and that's what comes if you're bidding with government, if you're bidding with a private contractor. Now, if you bid into a private contractor, then you negotiate the terms of your contract. A contractor say, well, if they're the prime contractor, they would get paid every 30 days, every 60 days, if they turn a pay request to the government agency. Then the government agency, they go through so many different processes before they even pay. So what you want to negotiate your own pay terms. If you want to get paid every 2 weeks, negotiate it. Or you get paid every 30 days. And let me tell you this too. Governments have, some of them, I know the City of Atlanta and GDOT and all, they have prompt payment clause. Well, they say, well, you get paid 10 days or 14 days after the prime contractor gets paid. Well, that could go forever, because once the prime contractor turns in a pay request, it goes through so many other departments before the approval. It could be 60 days before he even gets a check. So that means if you get paid 10 or 14 days after he gets paid, now you're up to 70 days before you even, and most small business cannot afford to wait that long to get paid. So negotiate your pay. Don't accept a contract that's just given to you by a prime contractor. And it's because it's weighted towards them, to them. So you negotiate your contract. And that's what, you know, when you enter in a contract, that's what it means, negotiation. You don't just accept what they give you.
What I appreciate about this workshop is that it really keeps us informed and engaged of how to do business with the government. To understand all the different avenues that are there for you to participate in is really, it's difficult. So these workshops help us to stay grounded and rooted and to continue to learn, to grow, and to develop.
Don't be greedy. Bid in too many projects at one time. You know, some people, you know, now bidding is not cheap. You know, it's very expensive to bid and to bid, especially to government, because they require so many copies and all this stuff. So, so if you bid and then you don't get to bid, you wasted a lot of money. So don't bid too many projects. Bid what you know you have a good chance of getting. You know, we know everything is so competitive out here. So, but choose the project that you're going to bid on. You know, something may look, you know, everything that look good is not good. You know, it may look good to you, but it may not be for you. Know how you're going to finance the project. You know, we did, most of the projects I dealt with were basically construction projects. So, and I know when a contractor gets a project, you want like mobilization. You want to get money up front. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Prime contractors get mobilization money. Most prime contractors get their money up front in the first place. So, so when you, if you are a construction and you are bidding as a sub to a prime contractor, ask for some mobilization money. You know, they have it because they, you know, they'll tell you they don't, but they do. Don't overextend your business. You know, don't get into more than you can do. You know, because prime contractors like to deal with subcontractors who don't give them no problem. You know, so in establishing, or you want to establish a relationship with a prime. You know, you want to be able to do the project. You don't want to, if you have problems, you want to take care of your problems. If you have some problems with some of your workers, take care of the problems. Don't get the prime contractor involved. A lot of prime contractors don't want to deal with you anyway. they have certain contractors that they like to deal with. But what you want to do is establish a good relationship with a prime contractor. And if you do that, they'll call on you most of the time, okay? Now, project readiness. Are you ready for the project? Now, you won the project, what do? First, you understand the project that you're bidding. Document everything. We're going to talk about construction again. You can be on your project, be on the construction project, and the project manager for the prime contractor come out and ask you to do something that's not a part of your original contract. Now, that's a change order. So it's legal if you have them, you document it, then have them to sign it. You can do it on a piece of chewing gum paper. It's legal. So if they don't do anything other than what's covered in your contract, if they ask you to do anything else, document it, make them sign it, date it. And so you give them a copy, you keep a copy. Okay.
Shouldn't you consider the cost implications too? I mean,
Oh yeah.
you know, other than just documenting and then doing it.
Yeah. So when you you're gonna give them a cost. So I mean, if they ask you to do something that that's not part of your original contract, yeah, you document the fact that they're asking you to do this. Then you give them a price for what it's going to cost.
Basically, you do
Right.
an addendum to.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and
Al,
yes.
for a good sub that's negotiating, the most important thing is change order when they're expanding your scope.
Right,
Verbals are not gonna do you any good.
right.
Memories drift aside, fired, so a signed change order makes all the difference about getting paid.
That's right, because if you don't, and something comes up later and you don't get paid, you don't have nothing to show that you were asked to do this. Yeah, you get a signed change order. Because anything different than what your original contract is a change order. So define your project leadership. I mean, who in your company is going to be responsible for that particular project? If you assign a project manager from your company, the prime contractor has a project manager. You're going to do a project, so you assign a person from your company also to project manage that particular project for you. Know the project schedule. Okay, let's say if you are an electrician and you're on you building a building, they come in, so you go to the project meeting, know what the project's when it's time for your scope of work to start. You don't want to just be waiting around till you can't afford to wait around till your part may not start until 3 or 4 months after the project starts. So you don't want to be sitting around. I know the prime contract wants you to, so they want you there when they want you there. So you know what the project schedule is. Go to the project meetings. That's when everything is discussed and the project updates and everything. So you'll know what it. Attend all the meetings. Pay prompt attention to all the RFIs and communicate. Whatever the communication, you want a copy of it. Everything. So that again go back to the project meetings because everything is discussed at those project meetings. Sometimes they have weekly project meetings. Sometimes they're every 2 weeks or whatever, but make sure you go. Secure all your materials for the project, supplies, goods. Make sure that your vendors are in place and secure any financial resources necessary to sustain the project long term. Now, make sure that you can finance whatever scope of work you're doing. And I did jot something down over here. If you was going to get a project, a small business loan, I know a lot of people say SBA loans. If you're going to get a loan to finance your project, SBA requires 3 things. Well, 3 major things for SBA loan. You should make sure your business show a positive cash flow. These are 3 major things. The other things they're going to require. Your business pro forma, that's your business plan, must show a positive growth and show how it's going to grow. And also, you're going to have to put some equity into that project. So that means they usually require about 10%. That means you got to put some of your money in that. So if you're getting a loan, and I know on some GDOT projects, the Department of Transportation, that's the U.S. Department of Transportation, they have a program that they will loan up to 80% of your project. Now, I don't know nobody who's ever gotten that loan, but they do. It exists. And I know one of the banks, is Citizen Trust Bank, but every time I talk to them, they make it difficult,
How many here have surety support at this time? Okay, so we got a couple. So there's an old saying we have in the bond business, a good insurance agent will save you money, but a good bond agent will make you money. And here's how we do it. We're going to get you qualified so that you can go after work that contractors like yourself either can't or won't pay the price of being able to get bonded. And what that allows you is a number of unique opportunities, such as if you're dealing with the federal government, for example, they have the Miller Act. Does anyone know what the Miller Act is? Okay. So for everyone else that doesn't know, federal government has guidelines that says that any project that is over $100,000 has to have a payment and performance bond. So I'm going to just kind of hit the very basics. I'm going to also have some bond forms I'll be happy to give to you, what we call a fast track program up to $1 million, and then we have an SBA program and the standard program and a non-traditional program. But the program, it allows you to bid work competitively among other contractors that have, in fact, have surety support. Usually you're going to find that your profit margins are much greater, and you've got an obligee, and that's what we call whoever you're obligated to, that's going to pay you. If the federal government doesn't pay you, or the state of Georgia doesn't pay you, or Clayton County Water Authority doesn't pay you, we've all got problems. But, you know, they have our tax dollars, and they have guidelines that they want everyone to adhere to if you're going to start doing bonded work. I would tell you that Al does as good a job as anybody else when it comes to putting together and helping contractors meet that special threshold of going to work for a GC versus the federal government. So how many here are subcontractors? Okay, so you know that what GCs always say about you, and that is you're the first to go to work and you're the last to get paid, because they're going to use your money for their working capital. And all the things that Al said is absolutely true about negotiating. Federal government doesn't allow you a lot of negotiating. However, they provide you a unique opportunity to be able to put in a draw by the 25th and usually get paid on the 10th. So it certainly helps you if you have a little working capital, a little net worth.
Workshop, what it has done for me, it provided me with insight about bonding and some of the qualifications. Also, it also gave me information on how to contract with Clayton County Water Authority and how to pursue those paths. So I'm looking forward to great things happening in the future.
We're fairly elementary. We look for character, cash, and capacity. We look for it just like that. We want someone that has a little cash and has some character to know that they're going to fulfill their obligations set forth by whoever they're doing business with, be it H.J. Russell or the federal government or the state of Georgia, DOT. You're going to complete the job within the time frame, and if you can or won't, then the surety steps forward. Difference between insurance versus suretyship. Insurance is a two-party relationship. You buy insurance, and if you have a $1 million auto policy and you're driving down the road and hit a school bus full of kids, that's all you got is $1 million. Suretyship is a three-party relationship, and once we get into the project for you and assist you, we look for a full and complete restitution, which is kind of chilling for a lot of people, but you got to understand that this is the tough business. I always said when you're looking for gamblers, you don't go to Vegas, you don't go to Atlantic City, you go to every city in this country and you find the person that's going to be the lowest bidder on a project. You're going to spend your own money on the project, and then you're going to hope to get paid. I mean, if that's not gambling, I don't know what gambling is. So we need to have folks that are not faint of heart, that understand what they do. They realize what their responsibilities are. They've done projects of similar size and nature, because one of the things that we look for is we look for contractors that, in fact, if you've done a $500,000 job, to us, our standard rule of thumb is, but it can change. That's one thing about the bond business. We're good about changing, is that we're probably going to support you up to $1 million for a single job. We'll go 2 times the largest project that you've ever completed. Now, the real issue is, do you have adequate working capital? And what Al said, have you done these projects in the past? Do you know the owners? One of the things that you need to find out about is, when you're doing business with the federal government, you know that the contracting officer, if they're pretty straight, they do a great job, that you're going to be happy if you make them happy. Private sector, a little different. Al talked about that. I'm guessing he might talk about it a little bit more. But there's 4 separate programs out there for small, medium-sized contractors. By the way, does anyone know what the federal government considers a small contractor? $25 million. That's the rule of thumb. Of course, your NICS code is there too. But the rule of thumb is, if you do less than $25 million, you're a small business. How many people did more than $25 million last year? Okay, everybody. So we're all small business. So I'm going to talk about the 4 programs that are out there right now to help small, medium-sized contractors. We have what we call a traditional program, and this is designed for contractors been in business 5 years or more, have clean working capital up to $500,000, net worth of about $1 million, unsecured bank lines, and that you need a lot of surety support, which means, rule of thumb, 50 to 70% of your work is all bonded work. So the contractors that are already here that get bonds, they've heard this story before. So the real issue is, the small contractor to me is someone that does $500,000 to $1.5 million, $2 million a year. And they're hitting it every day, 7 days a week.
The workshop is fantastic. It's something that everybody would like to get into, especially just starting. There's great people. They're very interested in what you're interested in. And I recommend it to any and everyone that has a small business and want to grow.
But they really don't know how to develop a surety relation. So we have a couple of programs. We have what we call the SBA, which is Small Business Administration. We talk about the loan programs through the SBA. This is the best program that small business has. They allow you to, in fact, go out and bid projects up to $10 million, provided you qualify. But the rule of thumb is, for folks that want to do small projects, $500,000, $1 million, $100,000, you've relatively new, don't have a lot of working capital, don't have great credit, the SBA is a great program. And they have 2 programs. They have what they call a fast track program up to $400,000, and then they have the standard program. I brought a fast track bond kit, which is perfect for the SBA, and it answers all the questions they're looking for, as well as the regular kit that we have. This program is so fast and turns around so quick, we have the ability usually to get a bid bond approved, because 3 kinds of bonds you have: bid bonds, payment bonds, and performance bonds. Bid bonds are like gambling. As when you're playing poker, you have to ante up a chip. Well, you're anteing up with your bid bond. Guarantees that your bid's going to be accepted and successful if you're the low bidder. Sometimes government entities doesn't necessarily take low bidders, do they, Al? Not always. You're exactly right. They look for contractors that they deem most appropriate or does the best job. How many here are veterans? Do you do veteran work? The Veterans Administration, the Park Service, they are looking for veterans because they want to do business with you. They set aside work and do not let the 8As or the hub zones or the SDBs. Anyone here an 8A? Okay. Woman-owned, Native American, there's all kinds of different programs out there that the federal government has to help small business. Federal government's guideline is 5% of all work that's put out for contractors needs to go to small business. Want to take a guess in the last 10 years how many times they've hit their goal? 0. So there's a unique opportunity for you if you want to be a government contractor. It's not that hard. Al can help you. He does a good job with that. Without beating his drum too terribly much, because we are good friends over 30 years, we have the SBA program for the fast track up to $400,000, and then for you that want to go after larger projects, up to $10 million. Key is working capital net worth on projects similar size in nature. We also have what we call a non-traditional program, which has sprung up to help the small, medium contractors that might not qualify in the standard market, even SBA, but they have the ability to extend and stretch to help you go and in fact get qualified. And the reason why we have these programs, like the SBA program, goes back to the 60s during the Nixon administration, because so many small contractors said, we don't have the avenue to have surety support. Don't have enough working capital, don't have enough net worth, we haven't been in business long enough, so we get precluded. The SBA came about and has in fact helped folks. How about Microsoft? They got their first bonds through the SBA.
I mean, with these ongoing workshops like this, you can have people that don't know anything about the contracting environment come in and they can get very well educated.
Many, many companies, the big companies that you see today, they at one time were small. And the SBA helped a bunch of them. I mean, they really did. As a contractor doing government work, your profit margin is going to be higher. You're going to enjoy better opportunities. You're not going to have the subs, being beat down by the GCs as a sub. And it allows you to control your own destiny. All that from being bonded. So the bond program that's set up, as a matter of fact, GDOT even has a program that can help small, medium-sized contractors if they need surety support. There's a lot of folks out there that in fact can help you. The problem is most people don't have the time or the energy to find them because it's hard to really develop a surety relationship. A lot of times, once you find that surety agent, you're probably going to stay with them for many years. I have clients that I've had 30, 35, almost 40 years. Because that's how long I've been in the bond business. Because it is a rewarding career to watch people grow their business and in fact watch them take care, help their families, and become contributing assets to society because you get to pay more. Anybody want to take a guess? Taxes. But what does it matter if you're making a bunch of money? You don't have a problem. No one ever has a problem.
This was a very useful workshop. I got a lot out on the deliverables that are needed. Also about bonding. Very good workshop. This is our second workshop. We will be attending another one.
How many people fly out of Hartsville in a year's time? You know that every one of those concessions that you see, they all have to have bonds. And they have a bond to guarantee that they're going to build it out correctly. Then they also have a bond to guarantee to the city that they're going to pay whatever fees that they're responsible for. That's a form of surety. If you see the janitorial services, they all have to be bonded. And their contract is usually an annual contract. And so once you're out there and you're bidding and you get that annual contract, it usually goes for 3 or 4 more years. So it's a continuous way for you to generate income. There are thousands and thousands of bonds out there. But right here with this crowd, everyone here, you want to get on that page so you can go after Clayton County's work, Clayton County Water's systems work, City of Atlanta work. The federal government puts out literally thousands of proposals on a monthly basis. They're all over the world if you're doing business with the federal government. But the one thing that you have to have, you got to be bonded. And to get that, it's not near as difficult as it seems. As a matter of fact, there are sureties now that have operating programs. In other words, if you're low on a project, you can actually use your contract as collateral and get working capital for that project, using your receivables. Not a bad way to go to fund a project. But the key is you need working capital to begin with, and you need someone that understands and knows how to put it together. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Is the surety bond required for each project?
Yes, sir. You have to bid it, and then if you're low, then you have to give them a payment performance bond for that particular project because you're guaranteeing your work, you're guaranteeing you're paying your subs, your second-tier subs, and then the ancillary guarantee once the project's finished. Yes, sir.
Is it transferable if the project fails?
Now, once you complete the project, it's over. But depending upon how much working capital, what size projects that you want to go after, you can bid 2 or 3 projects or 4 projects and have them ongoing. And they're all bonded because you got different obligees or owners. So that bond specifically goes to them. Yes, ma'am.
So where's the bond range as far as price?
Price anywhere from 1% to about 3.5%. It's tied to your credit, your net worth, your years in business, the scope of work, where is it located, who are the owners, how much of it's going to be subbed out. All those items come into play. But unless you got tons of working capital, I'm going to tell you somewhere between 2 to 3%. If you're in the SBA, they have a small fee, reinsurance fee, so it could be 3.56. But you build that into your price. It's like everything else.
Because just about everything, every project requires bonding. The other thing, to kind of give you some idea of what you need to do or what you can do to make yourself more amenable or available for other for projects. What we used to tell people in the state government is to every agency in state government has a procurement person. That person knows exactly what the projects are going to be coming up in that agency. So you can go on the state website and you can find out who that procurement person is for that particular agency. You can contact them and just tell them you want to meet with them so they can put a face with your business. So when something comes up in the area that you perform, then they can say, yeah, I remember that person. I met with that person. And so even with the university system of Georgia, those of you who are in construction, every university college in the state has a facilities director. And that person is responsible for all the construction on at that university or college. Call them and introduce yourself. Tell them you want to sit and meet with them. Even in the janitorial, they're responsible for the janitorial, taking care of all the buildings and everything. So if you're a supplier, they're responsible for the supplies that goes in those buildings, from paper towels to toilet paper to soap to whatever, so they can put a face with your business. So
These workshops have provided a great deal of information for me. Yolanda is a wonderful asset to all the small businesses in keeping us informed about the opportunities and the requirements to be successful in doing business with not just Clayton County, but government services as well as private businesses. I really appreciate her, and I'm glad to be amongst the certified applicants. Thank you very much.
have team meetings. Ensure assignments and responsibilities are clear and concise and understood. If you are in construction, even if you're not in construction, and this particular I was talking about, like on federal projects, where you have to go on military bases or to airport, you have to be badged in. So all your employees have to go through a security check and fingerprinting and background checks and all that stuff. And they have to receive a badge, and those badges only last for a certain amount of time, and then they expire. Make sure that all your safety requirements are there. Make sure ensure that your vendors and subcontractors are all properly assigned and scheduled to perform and go on the project. Performance and repeat business. How do you get repeat business? You remember I was telling you, contractors like to deal with people who don't give them no problems. Make sure that your quality of work is good. You adhere to the schedule on the job. Communicate with the prime contractor or the agency. Make sure that your whatever your problem solving techniques are, make sure that you can predict whatever problem is going to come up on that project. If they're unforeseen, you can take care of them. And create a good relationship with the prime contractor or with the agency, so you want to present the least number of problems that you can and establish good relationship. It's all about relationship. If you're doing it in the private sector, it's all about relationship. You remember, dealing with government, everything is low bid. So if you're bidding with government, the lowest bid going to win. they always say the lowest responsive bid, how you respond to that solicitation. Make sure that all your paperwork is in order. Make sure whatever's in that solicitation package, make sure that when you are bidding, address everything in that package. So, and some government think that if all the bids come in over their budget, then they'll negotiate. So they'll negotiate with the lowest bidder and see if they can come within an acceptable price to, so they can award that project. If not, they'll just pull the project back and rebid it again. So.
Because a lot of times you might bid on a business, a job, and you don't realize why you didn't receive it. My thing is that you need to go to the pre-bid meetings so you can gain the knowledge. Because a lot of times the person who's going to win the bid is sitting right in the room. So it's also about networking and building relationships.
So something new that we're doing with the bid discounts. So what they've decided to do is, so on our projects that we have that are typically projects that a small business might be able to bid on as a prime. So it's not a very high dollar project. So what we've decided to do is on those projects, we will put a SLBE bid discount. What does that mean? It's a bid discount for primes only. So what that means is if you are a certified SLBE with the Clayton County Water Authority and you were to bid on a project that has a bid discount on it, that means that you will receive a bid discount on your bid amount. So the way it works is if your business is located in Clayton County, we offer a 10% bid discount, okay, if it's prime only. So what does that mean? For example, that means if you submitted a bid that's $100,000 and you're certified SLBE with the Water Authority and your business is in Clayton County, when we evaluate your bid, we're going to evaluate your bid at $90,000, although you're going to get paid the full $100,000. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that for somebody who is not certified, and they may have bid $100,000 just like you did, but you're going to get the benefit because you're certified. That's what that means, okay? And if you live in, if your business is located in one of the 10 surrounding counties that we allow in our program, then that bid discount would be 7.5%. So it would be evaluated at 92.5. But it's still a huge, huge opportunity for you as a certified firm. So I always encourage you to get certified whenever and wherever you can, because you never know when it's going to come in handy.
It was amazing. Yolanda always provides the best material. I always can take it back to the office and do so much more. It further, whatever I have going on, it furthers me light years ahead. The content today was about on the bonds. That was great information because it's always difficult for small business to figure out how to qualify or pre-qualify, and we got a lot of information on that as well as contact information. So it was really good networking with individuals that we don't have the opportunity to network with.